If you play games, you are probably annoyed by the feeling of major games these days, and you would not be alone in that. For a very long time, I've kept my gaming to either old favorites of mine, or games made by small teams or individuals. Generally speaking, I could see and feel the decay of passion, the lack of artistic care, and the climb towards mass marketing. This is a very obvious trend to anybody paying attention, and lots of us are fed up with major game studios. I did some thinking and a tiny bit of research, and I found what I believe to be the biggest reasons the mainstream video game industry has declined this way. Number one is the scope. Video game companies used to be small by default, and making video games was a passion project, not a career. By now, it has become an established career path and one of the largest markets in the world. This scope attracts regular business types who are looking for profit rather than creation for creation's sake. It's not necessarily bad, but it means that they bring standard industry practices from other business types into the video game industry. Suddenly, it becomes less about creating a compelling game and more about optimizing a product. Their perspectives mean that video games and other products, like, blenders or furniture, are treated the same way. Second is the hiring practices of larger companies. Large companies hire based on written, traceable experience. This means that the technical leads and artistic leads for a lot of these games started as regular programmers and regular artists. When it comes to art, this is generally okay because a good artist can often direct good overall art design. These skills are related, which is why art direction in AAA games is usually pretty solid. However, the leap from programmer to technical lead is significantly more drastic. Programming and technical direction are two vastly different cognitive skills. Programming is focused on syntax, mechanical rules, and accomplishing goals as efficiently as possible. Technical direction and design is focused on how people experience technical elements. It's the way people interact with these systems and the psychology of players. These skills are not transferable. A good programmer and a good technical lead are not really the same type of person. Unfortunately, traditional business treats these roles as the same skill at various levels, which is why technical leads are often required to have programming experience. This is a fundamental flaw in the video game industry, and it means that people in technical leads for huge game companies are often not really built for that role. Sometimes you do stumble into people who are good at programming and good at understanding people, but it's much harder to find. It's not that these technical leads are bad, it's that they're doing the wrong type of job. The third reason is that the larger the company, the more reliant it is on bureaucratic processes to function. If you're working in a AAA studio and you notice a major design flaw, you can't just fix it yourself and move on. You have to write a report about it, you have to meet with higher-ups to discuss the issue, and you have to devise potential solutions before you even get to test anything. There is a huge chain of things that has to happen before a design flaw can be addressed, and by the time that design flaw can be addressed, the game has already been built partially around that design flaw. To undo major errors would mean setting everybody back, and companies really hate delays. If the flaw isn't going to interfere with profits, it doesn't really matter. That's the business first mindset. Design flaws become a nightmare to handle, especially if they're major and they're diagnosed late. Many of the employees of these companies may want to fix these things, but they just don't want to jump through 100 different hoops to do so. This is why people leave these major game companies and go on to found their own new companies. They love games, but they hate the processes they have to adhere to within these AAA studios. These are the three main issues contributing to the decay of AAA game studios: scope, hiring practices, and bureaucracy. So now the question is, well, how do you solve this? That's the difficult thing to come to terms with, because there isn't really an easy answer. If you solve the hiring practices, that may fix a lot of obvious errors and the decline in artistic quality, but the games themselves would still be corporate products at the end of the day. They would just be better disguised corporate products. If you kicked out all the business types, then the company would likely collapse after some time. People entrenched and familiar with business tactics are the ones keeping these large companies alive, because as the scale increases, the cost increases. As the scale and cost go up, the logistical issues compound upon each other until they're resolved or the company fails. If you dial down the scope, then the companies would basically be where they started in their earlier days. This is not impossible. It does sort of undermine the purpose of business. Companies aim to grow by default, somehow, some way. Forcing a company to revert and go back to being small and lower profit is not doable without significant internal force from someone with large amounts of control over the company. Also, expecting a company to not grow again after downsizing is borderline delusional. These large companies are often publicly owned, and publicly owned companies, they have to grow. I think they're required by law to grow, if I remember correctly. Or at least that's the effective result of whatever law is at play. I don't actually know what the law is. So what's the solution? The actual solution is very simple. Don't buy shitty games. Save your money. If you want new games, browse Steam sales or literally any other platform that hosts games. Many games allow the use of controllers nowadays. Buying consoles is literally just a money sink. They all make new ones every 2 years and call it next gen so it sells better. They port all their games to each console and make you buy it again. Not technically a scam, but it really does feel like it. The only realistic way to stop companies from creating garbage is to stop buying the garbage they sell. It's a tall order, and it's more than a little unrealistic to expect everybody to do it, but even minor dents in profit can make companies do something different. If you want to change anything, often the first thing you must change is yourself. I will be very frank. I understand that it's difficult to let go of things. Maybe that game company you like made your favorite game back when they were a small team of passionate nerds. You know, maybe that game feels like part of your identity. It's your game. The hardest pill to swallow is that the company you once knew is long gone. The people who made it your favorite have most likely left. The culture that created greatness has been sold off. And the leadership has either been devoured or replaced by corporate motivations. All that's left is a logo and a name. They're nothing different than any brand you see in the store. If they fail, then another will succeed them. There are always people looking to make great games. All it takes to find them is a bit of patience.